The importance of decolonizing narratives, unlearning the colonial version of history. Let's talk Turkey. From 2021, UU Ministry for Earth, Decolonizing Thanksgiving.
The importance of decolonizing narratives, unlearning the colonial version of history. Let's start at the beginning of the narrative, pilgrims in that turkey dinner, and President Lincoln's proclamation. The Thanksgiving myths. What have you unlearned about the pilgrims? And what have you learned about the Wampanoag people?
The axe has enlarged the borders of our settlements. The population has steadily increased, notwithstanding the waste that has been made in the camp, siege, and the battlefield. And the country, rejoicing in the consciousness of augmented strength and vigor, is permitted to expect continuance of years with large increase of freedom. The gracious gifts of the Most High God, who while dealing with us in anger of our sins, hath nevertheless remembered mercy. It has seemed to me fit and proper that they should be solemnly, reverently, and gratefully acknowledged as with one heart and one voice by the whole American people. I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November next, at the day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent Father, who dwelleth in the heavens. And I recommend to them that while offering up the ascriptions justly due to him for such singular deliverances and blessings, they do also with humble penitence for our national perverseness and disobedience, and fervently implore the interposition of the Almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation, to restore it as soon as may be consistent with the divine purposes, to the full enjoyment of peace, harmony, tranquility, and union.
Wow. There is so much more to the story of that proclamation. And there is much more to the false history around what occurred in Plymouth at the first Thanksgiving. There is so much more about how these two stories are foundational stones of the great American mythos. Now, I welcome invitations to dive into these words from President Lincoln's Secretary of State, William Seward, and their many layers at some other time. A link to the full text is available, and you are invited to fully consider the proclamation, especially in regards to the deeply ingrained religious beliefs around this holiday and the complete erasure of the indigenous peoples, who would not be fellow citizens for another 61 years, and whose right to vote is still being legislated today. But today is not the time for that discussion. Unitarian Universalists helped start Thanksgiving. Now they have second thoughts. Most Americans see Thanksgiving as a celebration of their national roots, and few are so tied to the holiday as Unitarian Universalists. Many of the churches established by the Pilgrims and other early colonists in New England eventually became Unitarian Universalist churches. Yet, despite those deep roots, Unitarian Universalists aren't feeling so sure nowadays about America's National Day of Turkey and Stuffing. On the agenda at this year's National General Assembly for this liberal, inclusive faith, Thanksgiving Day reconsidered. The Washington Post, 2016. The work that we have been doing and the work we still need to face is that there are many beloved myths to debunk, many false traditional narratives to unravel in order to uncover the kernels of truth, and the very difficult relational work of addressing the trauma for Indigenous people, which is not limited to how interwoven Unitarian Universalism is with this day, its racist pageantry, or the erasure of our own cultural observances of gratitude throughout our daily lives. Canadian writer and former social worker Kai Cheng Tom writes, I think the major difference between a social justice and a white colonial lens on trauma is the assumption that trauma recovery is the reclamation of safety. That safety is a resource that simply is out there for the taking, and all we need to do is work hard enough at therapy. The quote goes on, colonial psychology and psychiatry reveal their allegiance to the status quo in their approach to trauma. That resourcing must come from within oneself rather than from the collective. That trauma recovery is feeling safe in society, when in fact, society is the source of trauma. Colonial somatics and psychotherapies teach that the body must relearn to perceive safety. But the bodies of the oppressed are rightly interpreting danger. Our triggers and explosive rage, our disassociation and perfect submission are in fact skills that have kept us alive. The somatics of social justice cannot be aimed at restoring the body to a state of neutrality. We must be careful of popular languaging such as the regulation of nervous systems and emotion, which implies the control and domination of mind over emotion and sensation. In the cauldron of social justice healing praxis, we must aim for relationality that has the potential to generate social change, to generate insurrection. We must be prepared to challenge norms, acknowledge danger, embrace struggle, take risks, somatics that allow us to organize together, fight together, live together, love each other. In that spirit of love, the members of the Indigenous community who have come together in this work this year invite you to stop reconsidering, reframing, or reimagining this day so disconnected from gratitude and the giving of thanks. We ask you instead to focus on relational healing and co-creating a future with us.
Thanksgiving myths. Have you ever heard or read the original Thanksgiving Day Proclamation from President Lincoln? Were there any pilgrims or indigenous people in that proclamation? What do you know about how indigenous people celebrate giving thanks? And what have you learned about National Day of Mourning for Native Americans?